My name is Dan Young, and welcome to the Millionaire Code podcast. I'm a self-made guy that has made multi-million-dollar businesses from scratch. There's no way I could have done it without the help of mentors who provided me with the wisdom and guidance to help me create the formula for success. Each week on my podcast, I'm going to interview a hugely successful business person that will provide you their secrets to success, and that way can act as your mentor too. I can't wait to share their stories and takeaways with you. Welcome to Dan's Millionaire Code. Hi everybody, I'm Dan Young. Welcome to Dan's Millionaire Code. And you guys know every single week I bring in a millionaire, a billionaire, a mega influencer, someone who's changing the world and making it a better place. As you guys know, there's no advertisements here, and at the end of the video, you don't have to buy anything from me. The whole idea of this is you have super Jedi like my friend Garrett Gunderson, who's here today to show you some amazing things about wealth mastery. And he's here today to share those things with you. And all I ask you to do is this. One, take very good notes, watch this over and over, and execute the lessons that he teaches you today. And two, share it with your friends and loved ones. That's all I ask of you. And one more thing I do ask of you. If you like it, go check it out on our YouTube and also our iTunes podcast and rate it really well if you like it. That would be awesome. I appreciate that. So today's guest is my friend, Garrett Gunderson. And I'll give you a quick bio on him. Founder and chief wealth architect of The Wealth Factory. He's written multiple Wall Street Journal bestsellers, hitting #1 with Killing Sacred Cows and the New York Times, right?
Yep.
Also, he's a Forbes contributor and has founded an Inc. 500 company. So welcome, brother. That's only a few of us in that Inc. 500, right?
Yeah, man.
That's an awesome thing. So tell me a little bit about what you do and the empire you built.
Well, I grew up 2 hours southeast of here until I was 18 in a little coal mining town. So all my families are coal miners.
Wow.
And I started a business when I was 15, though, just detailing cars.
Wow.
And won the Young Entrepreneur of the Year with that. And it came with $5,000, which, dude, I thought that was a lot of money back then. So I was like, I should invest this because I wanted to get to the big city, right? And in that path to try to invest it, my mom wouldn't sign off as a custodian. Everyone I talked to gave me different advice. And so when I was 19, I finally, I got licensed to be a financial advisor. But all I did was sell mutual funds and life insurance. So it wasn't really financial advice. It was just product peddling.
Oh, good.
And then the market went down in 2000. And when the market went down, I was like, okay, there's got to be a different way. I'm just telling them to be in it for the long haul or to, the market's on sale and all this kind of notion that didn't sit well with me. So I went on a 2-month journey every single month flying somewhere to find out who are the brightest financial minds, who are the people that are doing things completely differently, what are the ultra affluent, what were they doing? And I just used my age to my advantage. Because I was young, they would talk to me. There's some about really wealthy people that like to pay it forward.
Oh, for sure.
And so
that's why you're here, right?
Yeah, they're like, hey, look at this,
Sure.
look at this, 20-year-old or whatever I was at the time. And so I was able to kind of get access. And plus I had a professor at my school that was a mutual fund manager before, and he was the #1 by all categories for municipal bonds. So managed $5 billion. He became an early mentor. I was actually thinking about him this morning and all the influence he had. So I started to question everything. And then I became an efficiency expert in finance. So saving people on tax, saving people on insurance costs, saving people on investment fees and hidden commissions, and even how they deal with their loans and all that kind of stuff. And that was kind of a beginning. And then now I'm really emphasizing legacy, how people can not only leave one, but live one and actually create an extraordinary life and have finances to match that. So
that's pretty cool.
A different thing.
Wow. So you guys started when you were super young, scaled it. So tell us about your organization now and what it's about and who your primary clients are that you're helping, and just give us a little bit of update.
Yeah, so Wealth Factory, we really focus on entrepreneurs. And our objective is to free 1 million entrepreneurs to get them financially liberated. And what I mean by that is enough recurring revenue from either their assets or entrepreneurial-based pursuits that don't require their daily involvement. Once they get that to cover their basic expenses, they're economically independent. We want to get 1 million people to that place.
Wow.
And then by doing that, they can really swing for the fences in everything they do because they have their financial foundation set. And so we developed the methodology of how to get there between 3 and 7 years. So no 30 years, no, scrimping and sacrificing. And our main clientele, we have 3 main programs. So the first program is for those businesses under $1 million in revenue. And we want them to get a full financial team, get education. So we do it kind of in some one-on-one and some group. It's kind of like a hybrid, and we work with people all over the United States and Canada. The second one is for people that are typically between 40 and 55 years old. They're married, have a kid at home. They feel like they're paying too much in tax, and they're doing between 1 and 10 million in revenue. Okay. So we take on 125 people a year in that. And for people that are 10 million and above, we actually have a strategic alliance, and we bring in another firm that helps get them a really comprehensive financial team. So
wow. That's pretty cool.
That's Wealth Factory, man.
You know, our goals are very similar. Dan's Millionaire Code, create 1 million millionaires.
You'll create the millionaires, and I'll help them keep the money once you create it. It'll be a great relationship, man.
Dude, right on. Good partnership here. So let me ask you this. So getting started, what are some of the forms of marketing you found most effective when you're getting going and now? Because obviously you're everywhere now. I mean, you got massive amounts of followers on social media and all over the place. What are some of the things you did to do that?
So this was like where I really got a lot of growth was I went and found influencers and made them clients. So people that had a big following. And then what would happen is they would just interview me on whether it was back in those days, it was a teleseminar a lot of times, or it was a conference call, or it was a recording, and they would send out actual physical CDs back in those days. And then they would just say, hey, this is Garrett. He's my financial guy. And I'm just going to interview him for an hour. So I get this killer endorsement, and they'd have somewhere between 5,000 at the minimum to maybe like 100,000 in their database. And then all of a sudden we would sell them a $200 program that I created with Nightingale Conant. And from there they would get a phone call, and that phone call would send them into our programs if they were a fit.
So Nightingale Conant, those are the guys that worked with Tony Robbins quite a bit. In fact, when I bought his stuff, it would say their logo on some of the shipping.
I know, man, when I got Nightingale Conant, I was like in my late 20s, and I was so stoked because when I was 18, I bought like 10 Nightingale Conant programs of like Brian Tracy and, you know, Tony Robbins, like you said, and just all these people, and all of a sudden I was one of their authors. Now they're not quite thriving like they were back then, but it was a really cool way. I took my $7,500 program, and I said, I'm going to put the entire $7,500 in my Nightingale Conant program, so it's going to force me to do something better for a Wealth Factory. It's going to have to make me reinvent our other programs. And so I feel like it was an amazing program, and people would get it. They would get indoctrinated in a lot of what we were teaching, and then the right ones would hire us. So that was my early marketing. So it wasn't really a lot of social media. It wasn't really good with online marketing at that time. We became really good that way when I acquired a firm in 2014. I just bought a firm, and we had a CMO in that other firm. They had sold 50,000 financial programs online.
Holy
so it's like, I want those capabilities, right?
Wow.
And they still run everything. They run all our Facebook ads and Google and all that stuff.
Wow. So now, lots and lots of social media, but you're probably doing pay-per-click search, of course, and stuff like that.
A lot of that. Like I just started doing like personal social media. I've been absent from that for the last decade, and I'm really starting to put a lot of emphasis in. I'm doing a video a day now. I'm really like growing that. But Wealth Factory had been doing a lot. Like we did a commercial. Like I feel like it's a good commercial that you would appreciate knowing your commercials.
Pretty silly.
Because I'm like a meeting crasher in the whole thing. And there's like this actor's name is Glenn Morshower. Most people would know his face, maybe not know his name. He was in every Transformer. He was in 24. Wow. He's one of the busiest character actors. He was on Jimmy Kimmel as one of the 4 guys that you know their face but not their name. Mm-hmm. And so I brought him in, and he was like this old, like boring, you know, from the front of the room, teaching the wrong financial concepts. And I'm the guy in the back of the room, like whispering to people. And then I end up jumping up on the table and giving them these guides and stuff. But yeah, we got a couple million views on that, and use that as a way to acquire leads. So that was really cool. And then I just barely filmed a video with the same firm that's a little bit, it's not totally funny. It's a little bit funny though. Like my wife smacks my ass in the video, which I think is kind of funny. And it's like for people that are hiring me to speak. So I'm really starting to get more into that like leveraged level of like, how can we use social media and technology and be as one-to-many as possible? Like we've been doing webinars for a long time.
Are you doing all traditional? Are you doing all social media and digital, or are you doing some traditional too, or how does your mix look?
So we haven't done a lot of like TV. We've had firms offer that they'll actually fund the whole thing, and then we just get a smaller percentage on whatever it converts. Mm-hmm. And we just haven't pulled the trigger yet because I want to make sure it's on brand.
Okay.
They're really good at what they do. We used to do like physical mail that we would send to get people to come to events or get to people on like phone calls and stuff, and that worked really well. But right now it's almost all digital that we're doing right now.
You know, we've changed a lot through the years for our companies, 27 years.
One of the first things we did originally is traditional radio and TV, and then got way heavy into digital, almost 90% digital. But one thing we found, depending on the demographic that we have, a lot of our clients for like our retail stores are 40 plus. And we found that traditional media like TV and radio during the news, like news happening, was super effective. In fact, sometimes even more effective than some of our digital campaigns.
Yeah.
So we found at least that it's kind of a recipe mix.
I agree.
Of who you're talking to. But right now with a lot of the younger crowd, wow, Instagram for us has been just on fire. I don't know about you, but Instagram's like, wow.
Yeah, for us, we've been crushing it with Facebook, with the paid traffic there. We've had really good return on ad spend, as high as 400% on the front end.
Wow.
So, and then a lot of our money comes on the back end when the right person comes through. But we like a lot of where we're in this competition, it's a friendly competition. My marketing team versus me. So I go on stage, like I just spoke yesterday up at Snow Basin. How many people do we get because I spoke on stage versus how many people they get because they went online? Now they produce 80+% of our leads.
Okay.
But my conversion's really, really good from stage. Yeah. So I love that because I'd love to see them at 80% because it just means I have to go to less things unless I really want to. Like I have a goal that I only want to fly private to speak somewhere. That way it's on my schedule. I get to come home when I want. I get to take who I want. Where commercial flights, it's just a lot of wasted time. So if they get to 80%, I'll only be flying private. So I'll take that. It's
cool. So some of you had this awesome charisma coming off of you. And one thing that you told me when we talked earlier was you do stand-up comedy?
I do.
So tell me about that and how is that being integrated into your stage presence? And I bet you that's really helping you in your close ratio when you're talking to big crowds.
Oh man, it's good because like there's an event I've done like 3 or 4 times now. I have a local client and he has me come speak at his event. And like he's just got a good personality. So I think it's like 50% comedy when I'm up there and 50% content. Wow. Like people are laughing and I'm starting to integrate even more because like when I'm on stage for comedy, I might do like the triple thing where you tell the joke and then you tell a little bit deeper, then you come with a real big hit. Like when I'm on stage, I usually just tell one piece of it. And then I don't go to the other pieces because now I'm back into content. But I'm actually writing in the comedy where normally it kind of happens on the fly. But I just think that when people are laughing and entertained, they actually learn more and they enjoy it a lot more.
Oh, yeah. And the retention is way,
Totally. So, I mean, you've done really good with all your, with the comedy within all of the commercials and everything. Makes it super memorable, right? Yeah. Like it's just really memorable. So I want to be, and look, man, and my topic is boring as hell by most people, right? It's just like, they're up there, it's overly technical. And what I find is the more stories I tell, the more humor I bring. I didn't do a ton of humor yesterday, but I did a little bit, you know, and it gives them a little bit of a break.
So how big is Wealth Factory now in your whole org now? Is it pretty large? Yeah.
Wealth Factory, so we've got, Wealth Factory has about 22 employees. Most of them are headquartered here, but 2 of our writers are remote, our CMO and a customer service and a tech person's remote. And then we have something called the Accredited Network. We don't own the Accredited Network business, but the Accredited Network is vetted professionals, whether it's accountants or attorneys or investment advisors. And so when we extend into their organizations, we have now hundreds of people that support our organization, but we only have 22 on payroll.
This is cool though, because most entrepreneurs I know, at least when I got going, I'd have these big missing holes. And I had to step on some big landmines to discover, oh, wait a second, you need a great CPA. Oh, wait a second, you need a great attorney. Wait a second. But luckily, I survived all that. But a lot of my friends who started companies got their butts kicked and went out of business because of some of those things. So you help a lot of entrepreneurs prepare and avoid those mistakes by plugging in the right human beings that need to be on their team.
Absolutely, because I feel that 90% of our financial surprises don't have to derail us if you're properly prepared and you have the right team.
Yep.
So you've stacked the odds in your favor. I mean, most entrepreneurs, if they don't have the right tax team, they're going to get a surprise tax bill. That could really be a problem.
Jeez, yeah.
And even worse, we're finding 93% of them way overpay on their taxes.
Wow.
Like, this is just cash that goes into their pocket.
Yeah.
It's not paying employees. I mean, yeah, you might pay an accountant, but you're keeping 90+% of that money. So, yeah, getting the financial team, like we all know how important it is to hire the right employees.
Oh, yeah.
It's just as important to hire the right financial team.
For sure.
And what might happen is like, when I started, I thought, okay, well, I was a financial advisor. I told people, but I wasn't a financial advisor. I was a product peddler. So if I was your guy when I was 19 years old, you wouldn't have an estate plan. You wouldn't have, the right legal structures because I didn't even know about that stuff at 19. Like, it really takes having a comprehensive, cohesive, communicating team. And when you have a great team, you can take that business wealth and make it personal wealth.
So maybe for the viewers out there,
Yeah.
could you share a couple nuggets of your wisdom, and then that could help them a little bit, and then if they want to go further, they can contact you and go deep.
So there's 2 things to avoid that are mistakes with taxes.
Okay.
And there's 3 things to do. I'll just quickly say the 2 things to avoid.
Okay.
I don't believe in spending $1 to save 37 cents. I call that the tax tail wagging the dog. So I'm going to teach everyone right now, if you're going to save tax, if you spend $1, I want you to get $2 back. It's called tax arbitrage. And I think it's pretty game changing because look, man, when I was in my early 20s, I remember telling my wife, I'm like, hey, we need to go buy a 5,500 pound vehicle. And she's like, why? I like my little car. I'm like, no, because we can write it off on a section 179. And then we can write it all off in this year and it's going to save us a bunch of tax. But the reality was we bought a car we didn't want that was depreciating, and yes, we saved tax that year, but we spent $1 for every 37 cents we got back, so we didn't get wealthier by buying that.
No.
So the main thing is to reclassify your income, and there's 4 ways to do it as a business owner. Number 1 is you turn active income into passive income. So a way to turn active income into passive income, I'll just give a couple examples.
Okay.
Like, if you own this building, you can set it up in an LLC and you can charge the highest possible rent that based upon the comparables to your business, and that's coming in as 1099 income, not W-2. W-2 income has up to 15.3% self-employment tax. Even when that's maxed out, you're at 3.2% Medicare, Medicaid. And then when you get above $250,000, there's an extra 3.7% added to the 3.2%. If all you did was move it to a more passive income, you're not paying any of that 15.3. Or you can do something called the reasonable salary test. So reasonable salary is you can set up like an S corporation for one of your entities. And you can pay yourself a reasonable salary. Now, a reasonable salary isn't what you and I are worth. It's what someone that is in our profession would get paid on average. And so it's going to be drastically less, and then you can take the rest in distributions. And those distributions don't get hit with all the self-employment or all those other taxes.
Right.
So that's just active to passive.
That's
There's a lot of ways
massive.
to do it.
I did that years back, and I can't believe for years I wasn't doing that.
So number 2, can we take ordinary income and make it capital gains?
Yes.
There's a big savings. So, for example, if you're doing business internationally, you can set up an international sales corp, an ICSCD or something like that, an international sales corp, where any income that comes in internationally is only taxed at capital gains.
Wow.
So that's awesome. Or one thing I do, and I'm going to give a real caveat to this, I'm about to give a risk management strategy that changes taxes. This isn't a tax strategy. It just happens to have tax benefits. And it has to be done properly because I'm about to give advice that can double your chance of audit. And if done improperly, can be a problem. But I still want to give examples.
Okay.
So I actually set up my own captive insurance agency, which means I can put money pre-tax into a corporation. That corporation can insure all my businesses. And if I don't have a claim on those businesses, I can take that money out as a capital gain instead of ordinary income. So I'm just having my own insurance company. Every Fortune 500 has a captive. Geico started as a captive, and then it became a full-blown insurance company.
Wow.
But it's a way for you can put up to $2.3 million in that per year, depending on your risks. Think about that. Pre-tax, you have to leave it in there for at least 12 months, but most retirement plans, you have to leave it until you're 59 and a half. This is only 12 months, and then you have access to your money again.
So you're taking your profits, you're putting in here, and then you only pay capital gains rate
on the way out.
By doing this strategy. That's pretty cool. Now, you said it does increase your chance of audit significantly.
It does, and here's why. Because these are completely legitimate plans that people have abused.
Oh, okay.
So people have gone out and they've said, I'm going to set up this captive insurance agency. I'm going to buy certain assets in there that insurance companies aren't allowed to buy.
Oh.
So let's say that whoever your provider is, whoever your attorney is, let's say they have 100 other people that have captives with them, and one of them does it wrong, and they get audited. Now the IRS is going to say, well, what are these other 99 people? Did they do it wrong?
It's like domino.
So you're more susceptible. So what I did was 19 years I knew about a captive. I didn't do it till last year.
Wow.
And the reason I waited so long is I saw ones that failed, and I want to know why do these fail and why do these not fail? And I couldn't really figure it out. I finally figured it out, and then what I started doing was testing captive companies. I get referrals to them. And I would sit down with them. I go, hey, I want to invest in this. And I want to do, and I knew all this stuff was on the fringe. And if they go, yeah, I think you could do that. I'm like, no, I already know that they're letting other people do crap. So I got with this Texas firm and I'm sitting there brainstorming and they just said, look, man, captives aren't for you. It's just, you want to do stuff, that's not what they're meant for. And I was like, I'm going to investigate this firm. I did, and I went forward with them because they were just rigid, and that's what I was looking for.
Wow.
So anyway, first one is active to passive. Second one is ordinary income to capital gain. The third one is tax-free.
Captive insurance company.
Yeah, so the third thing is this tax-free strategy we just did for one of our clients out of Atlanta. He was selling his business. We had him pick a charity that he was really fond of, and he actually donated the business to the charity in a charitable trust.
Okay, yeah, I heard of it.
So he gets a tax deduction for the amount that they expect to be left to the charity when he dies. So he gets a partial tax deduction. His transaction's $9.7 million. So we're thinking his tax deduction is going to be somewhere around $990,000, maybe as high as $1.1 million. They're doing the assessment right now. He pays no tax when the business sells. It's set to sell next week. So that will all fund into the trust. And then he can take an income of as little as 5% off of the full amount that's in the trust and as high as 50% depending on a couple factors. One, your age, and two, the underlying performance of the investments in the trust. So what happens is when he dies, the charity keeps whatever's left over. It's a charitable remainder trust.
Yeah, I heard
The
that,
intent is you try to set aside at least 10%, that they're going to get at least 10%. But the reality is now he doesn't pay 20-some% on the sale of his business. He gets a 10%-ish tax deduction for the donation of the assets. So he's already at a 30% more cash at the end of the sale than if he would have just sold it outright.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's going to be better cash flow
And
for him.
he can keep that money, or does it have to?
Yeah, he gets to invest that money in the trust.
Does he have to donate all the money in the trust eventually?
Just when he dies, whatever's left over.
Okay.
So think about the trust as there's two beneficiaries. You're the first one. The charity is the second one.
Okay.
You benefit during your entire lifetime. They only benefit when you die.
Oh, wow. And they get it all. How does that work as far as estate planning? Let's say if you have kids and you want them to be able to inherit some of that.
Okay, well, this is kind of a cool strategy we did for him.
Yeah.
So we went out and we went to a portfolio bank and we just said, hey, he's about to do this transaction. He's fairly wealthy. Would you be willing to finance an insurance policy? So it's called premium finance. And they actually lend him money to pay the insurance premiums. And they're lending him the money at a pretty low interest rate, so 3%. And right now we're just looking at 4.5% being earned in the insurance policy. So he's actually ahead.
Like 1%.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we just measure that year to year. Do interest rates go up and his policy doesn't perform, then we might change. But what we're trying to do is just get that funded for 7 years and then it's paid up forever. And then the insurance comes in tax-free without estate tax because it's inside of the right trust to his heirs.
This is pretty complex, so...
Yeah, so we just dove right into the deep end here, man, you know?
So that's the stuff you help people with.
Right.
In every step of the way.
And then the fourth thing on the tax side is what we call tax arbitrage, which sounds super fancy and complicated, but the reality is all tax arbitrage means is you're spending $1 and you're getting more than $1 in tax benefit. So rather than spending $1 to get 37 cents of benefit, it takes it differently. So I'll give a couple examples. The first one is, in 2006, I built a building in South Jordan. So we're, probably not too far from one of your, PC laptop places or something. So when I built that building, I brought in my attorney to show him the building. And he's like, hey, there's a lot of white space on these walls. What are you going to do about that? I'm like, I'll eventually buy some art. He goes, well, I know an art dealer in Scarsdale, New York. You could actually buy art collections that will be at a deep discount if you will never sell them. And then you can donate them after 3 years. So think about this. I went and bought $300,000 is what I spent on art, but it was worth $2.2 million. Wow. Because I bought collections. And then after 3 years, I was able to donate them for the appraised value to museums. Oh, wow. So I got back $2 for every dollar I spent in tax benefit.
Wow.
That's tax arbitrage.
That's pretty serious, man.
So there's other things you could do like conservation easements or historic easements. Like if you ever found a historical building here that you wanted to buy, you could actually buy the historical building. And if you promise never to tear it down or destroy the facade, you can still office in it. You could rent it out. You can do whatever. But you can actually get a donation for preserving the facade of the building. It's called a historic easement. A historic easement can give you a major tax advantage while you still get the benefit of being in the building. Wow. So Yeah, these are the kind of things. Yeah, that's one of the legs of our tax strategies, just one of the ideas.
Wow. This is cool, man. This is some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
All right.
Because so far, from what I've heard, you've been pretty successful, right? So what's the biggest loss you've ever had, man? And how'd you get through that? Like the biggest setback that, you were just like, oh.
So as I talk about this building that I bought, I was supposed to be 45% owner. My business partner was supposed to be 55% owner. But he was going through and he had it all in his name because he's like, let's just secure the financing. It'll be easier with just one of our names, and then we'll worry about after the financing is secured, I'll put you on the, we'll set up an LLC. Well, he ended up getting in financial trouble in the middle of the building being built. And so rather than having me own 45%, he started to take investor money. And instead of taking the investor money and putting it into the building, he started putting it into other real estate projects he had.
Oh, no.
So that building was something that I put money in, that I officed in, and I completely lost everything about that building because he went to jail, though. So at least I wasn't like taking people's money and then diverting it, because that made it essentially a Ponzi scheme. And he's someone I'd known for 10 years and just really trusted, and feel bad for what he did, but he made the mistake, man. He didn't come clean with people.
Wow. So did you lose that money?
I lost about $440,000 on that deal.
Oh, that's painful.
Yeah, it was an expensive tuition. Very expensive tuition.
But you learned something, right?
It was an amazing, I literally had to mourn the building like it was a person. Like, I love that building so much. We won interior architectural awards for Utah and Idaho. We won a national award for the overall design of the building. Like, it had bamboo floors. We had this dude, you would have loved that building because we had this looked like an inverted skate, park, and we had all these arcade games on it. Oh. We had Punch Out, and we had 1942, and we had 100, and we had foosball in there. We just had a killer office, and I had to just basically be like, okay, I'm letting this go and I'm moving on. I tried to buy the building when it went into bankruptcy, but I wasn't even officially a partner because they didn't put me on the LLC. And the people that office next to us had the cash and wrote a check that day for it, so they got it. I was gonna put money down and finance, and this is the thing: cash is king.
How long ago was this?
2008.
Wow. Oh, that was a tough year for everybody.
That was I was dealing with that. I was launching a book. I was on the road. I had 2 young kids. I got all my gray hair then. I basically got all my gray hair in that year. I was like, that was a lifetime in 12 months for me, man. Yeah.
It made you stronger, right?
Man, I learned from mistakes. Learn massively from those mistakes.
So for entrepreneurs out there, or people that are thinking about starting a company, or they're working somewhere and they have that itch, or if they already have one, what are some other couple pieces of advice that you could give them getting started?
Yeah. You and I talked about this idea on the phone not too long ago. And I call this, they could use the cycle of creation. So the cycle of creation is, we start with an idea. That's just maybe, you have ideas constantly, right? Mm-hmm. So you start with an idea. It becomes a concept once it's more crystallized and shared. So now you've shared it with another person. You've documented it somewhere. It's a concept. You move from concept to framework when you can start to delegate, when you can start to get other people involved. And then eventually it becomes a product, service, or experience. If you're just starting out, don't try to build everything perfectly right from the beginning. Think about the minimum viable product. Think about what is it that people that want or that you have to offer. I call it win then play, but I just talked to someone, they call it pre-selling. They actually sell it before it exists. Now, it takes high integrity. What you do is you go to someone and say, hey, we're going to put together a beta group for this project that we're doing. So when I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, I did this. I pre-sold my book. I pre-sold 22,000 copies before it was done. I said, we're going to give you these bonuses, exclusive to you for being part of it up front. Number 2, we want you to be part of a reader group and give us any feedback. You might become a case study or a testimonial. And then ultimately, I didn't have to raise funds. The very people that actually were going to read the book were already paying for it up front. Wow. So when the book came out, I didn't owe anyone any money. I just owed a book to people that actually wanted to read it. And so, look, man, we've done this throughout history.
It's like your own crowdfunding, right? Like
exactly.
Your own internal.
Yeah, internal crowdfunding. And so, crowdfunding existed before Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I mean, the Statue of Liberty was given to the United States by France, but they crowdfunded that. They just put in the New York magazines, would you like to be the first to go to the visitor center? Well, if so, you make a donation. This much donation, you get your name on a brick. this much donation. You just get to go first in the first week. And they raised enough money to build the visitor center from the very people that went to, so they didn't go do a bond, or they didn't go ask the government to fund it. They just had the very people that wanted to actually benefit from it. And that's my biggest advice is like, how can you get profitable and create cash flow as quickly as possible and then fund it with that cash flow, right? And then just get feedback from those people, have them become your biggest fans. Like I look at the framework and say, how can I get my customers to be part of the framework? I was in Vietnam in 2010 on a trip, or maybe 2009. And it was Matt Mullenweg was on that trip. He owns WordPress, right? And I'm like, that dude is the ultimate win then play guy, because there's 52,000 plugins that were created for WordPress that weren't from WordPress employees. They're from WordPress end users.
Wow.
So you empower the very people that want to use your stuff to become the ones that improve it.
It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That's majorly good advice. In fact,
Thanks, man.
I get people all the time. Dan, can you spot me 50 grand to start my deal? Can you sponsor me? Blah blah blah. But with this knowledge you just gave people, they don't have to beg for money.
Right.
Right. Well,
No more raising funds. You just get the end user to be the one that funds it.
Wow.
You don't owe money. You just create momentum. It's a totally different game.
Is this something you help some of your clients with when they're starting new projects too?
Definitely, we do some cycle of creation. I'm doing interviews in the next 2 weeks with about 12 of our clients that have done it, because there'll be case studies for my new book.
Wow.
So,
that's cool. What's the new book called? Do you have a name?
Win then play. So win first, then play.
Wow.
Right. So profit up
when's that
front.
out?
We're going to start pre-selling in August of
Pre-sale.
2019. Yep, we're going to do the very thing, and then it comes out Q1 of 2020. We don't know the exact date. It's based upon distribution into like the bookstores and the airports and stuff. Will determine what the launch date is.
That's pretty
Could
cool.
be as early as January 1st and as late as March 1st.
All right, man. What's your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal, man, long term? What do you want to do?
All right, so the 1 million to economic independence is the first part of that.
Okay.
But I actually want to take 1 million first generation entrepreneurs that it's the first time they've experienced wealth, and have them create a legacy that will last, so that they can eliminate even using the banking system ever again, and they have their own family banks so that they earn interest with their family, fund their family, invest in their heirs, and completely eliminate this financial bondage that everybody's born into. And secondarily, I want Win Then Play to be on the bestseller list for at least 20 years and be the #1 financial book of all time.
Wow. Dude, you got a lot of big stuff going. It's exciting.
Man. Well, so do you, man. I just did the tour. I mean, it's awesome what you're up to.
Crazy. I got to
Can't wait to bring my son. Got to bring my son to check all this out. I'll be more of a hero to him.
Oh, man.
You know?
Dude, you're welcome anytime. Wow. This is a lot of information here. I'm just processing. I'll have to take post notes and share it with everybody out there.
All right.
Where can people find you, man?
Wealthfactory.com/podcast. Okay. Probably the best place.
Wealthfactory.com/podcast.
Yep. And I actually, dude, I just finally bought this week my own, dude, so there's another Garrett Gunderson out there.
Really?
He's had the GarrettGunderson.com website for like 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And like back in the early, in the 90s when it was like he got it like right out the gate.
Oh, wow.
And he finally sold it to me. So we're eventually going to have that.
He retired now?
It was like a resume up there forever.
Oh,
so
no.
I was like, hey, man, let me give our name some good juju and vibes. And he was a hard negotiator.
It's up now?
But
Is it up now?
Not yet. We're in the transaction. Like I put money in escrow just yesterday, wired the money. He's got to release it, and then I've got the development firm that's been building out the website.
You're on
its own
Facebook and
platform.
Instagram like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like nuts. And then also YouTube, right?
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, just type in Garrett Gunderson channel, and we're now really pushing hard on that. We're just giving tons of value and content every day on that.
Wow. Any last pieces of advice or tips or anything for the audience out there that anything you want to tell them?
Yeah, I'll tell them this. Like, most entrepreneurs are in this mentality where they're playing to win. And play to win is fine when you're in a startup mode, but if you stay in a play to win mode, I want to ask a few questions. At what cost? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And ultimately, are you building a life you love? Like, what happens when you can move to win and play, where you enjoy the journey, where you go and have mini retreats over time and forget the notion of retirement because you really enjoy your life and you're living by purpose? So to me, win and play means that you really create and live your legacy, that you do things along the way that are meaningful, and you continue to grow your purpose, and then your bank account follows. Like the moguls in this world, they never retired. They had more money than they could ever spend, but they didn't retire because their purpose was big enough. So I find that there's a lot of happiness in purpose, especially if that purpose is compelling and catalyzing, and even just like, to me, purpose is beyond our reach. Like, I don't know how to get to the million, but I know a lot more now than 5 years ago when I said it, right? I feel like we got 110,000 people on that track right now. When I said it, we had like 10 people, you know? So it's like, I really feel like if you can get that vision, you can deal with a lot of issues, minutia, and you can be excited. Like when I went to Italy for 2 months with my family, I came back excited to be engaged in what I do. If someone takes a 2-week break and they can't stand going back to what they do, they're in the wrong thing. They haven't declared their purpose and they're not winning in play. Wow.
This is incredible. I want to give a quick summary of what I got here, man. I got so many notes. The win and play, which you just talked about, that's immensely important, and enjoying the journey along the way. That keeps the fuel going, right?
Totally.
Boy, you've got 4 different things here. We talked about tax arbitrage, and this is stuff, a lot of this stuff is kind of new to me, so I will try to reiterate it as best I can. Turning active to passive income, right?
Yep.
Captive insurance company.
Yep.
That's another interesting thing. And also charitable remainder trusts as another different way to reclassify incomes, and it's a tax-free strategy. But you teach all this in depth.
Definitely.
Because hearing it for the first time, whoa, I'm going to come bug you about this stuff.
I like it, man. Building a relationship here to, you know.
So this is killer. So, friends, reach out to Garrett on his website. He's super responsive, and his team is super awesome, and they'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Oh, dude, if they want to ask questions, I'm launching, as of Monday, askthemoneynerds.com.
Ask the Money Nerds?
So they go to Ask the Money Nerds, they can type in any question, and I've got a team of money nerds, and the reason I launched the website was that there was a couple reasons. One, I just wanted research for everything I'm writing so that I can find out what are people really worried about, what are they really thinking, right? Number 2, that I can build a relationship with people, like by adding value first. And number 3, I want to make it one of my segments on my podcast. So I just wanted to engage and interact. So
this is cool.
that,
AskTheMoneyNerds.com.
AskTheMoneyNerds.com.
Next week, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay, go there, ask whatever questions you want from the Money Nerds. That's so awesome. Garrett, thank you for coming on the show.
Man.
Thank you for all the wisdom. You're super high bandwidth.
Thanks for the tour.
Man.
This is awesome.
Guys, girls, as you know, again, this podcast is absolutely free. There's no charge or anything. Garrett has shared all this incredible amount of knowledge with you. A couple things, watch this over and over like I actually will myself, and take notes and execute on this stuff. Reach out, take proactive action, and if you found it valuable, make sure you share it with your loved ones. You've been watching Dan's Millionaire Code. You know, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. Again, and if you love it, rate it well, share it with your friends. You guys have an awesome week. I'll see you next week.